should we fire Kyle Shanahan? And I think the weakest argument to not fire Kyle Shanahan, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm going to say not to fire Kyle. But before I get there, I do want to pick some of the arguments apart as to why you shouldn't fire Kyle. The worst one is, well, I mean, what if you get Tom Sula or Chip Kelly? Okay. Like, those guys don't exist anymore. It's not, you don't have to go that bad. Yes, you may not get a guy as good as Shanahan, but you may get somebody better than Shanahan. You never know. But that's not a reason to not fire him. Oh, well, he might get hired. He's going to get hired immediately by another team. Okay. How many relationships have you been in that didn't work out and your ex immediately moved on and found somebody else? Did that make you question anything? Should it have? No, because it wasn't working for you. So why do you care if they move on and find something that doesn't mean that it works for you?
Correct.
And then again, the conversation about, well, the offense is doing well, the yards. I mean, he's doing his job. Guys just aren't executing. It's like,
moving the ball.
He's not the offensive coordinator. He's the head coach. So a lot of people find the wrong reasons as to why you would want to keep Kyle. And for me, there's multiple reasons why you should keep Kyle. And none of them are that. So I'm going to give those real quick. I'm going to say, first of all, I don't think it has to be as bad as Chip Kelly or Tom Sula, but there is no guarantee that the next guy is going to be a good head coach. It's just not a guarantee unless you're getting a guy that has proven it in multiple spots, like a Harbaugh. Harbaugh, obviously, no matter where he goes there, it's going to be good. But there's not a lot of guys out there like that. So that's one. Number two, you don't know if that next coach is going to want to keep Brock Purdy, who you've deemed as your franchise quarterback. The ownership deemed him as that. So if you're trying to sell tickets and the next coach is like, I don't want Brock, well, that's an issue. And so you're limiting your candidate pool based off of who's willing to work with Brock Purdy. And maybe you're taking some of the best candidates out because of that. Also, I'm trying to think back to the Harbaugh era. I didn't want him fired when he went 8-8 after doing so well to start. Kyle Shanahan has been to 4 NFC championships in 8 years. No, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but that's really hard to replicate. Maybe he'll never win one. I think there's a lot of reasons to think he'll never win one. He definitely deserves to be held accountable. But I think that's good enough to at least see one more bad year before you fully move on. And there is one way that I would fire him, though. And there's no way for me to know or you to know. This is only an ownership thing and the players in that locker room. If he's lost the locker room, Grant, he has to be fired. The only reason Wilkes was let go is because he had lost the defensive locker room. It wasn't because he didn't do a good job, because he did. Clearly better than what we're seeing this year. But he lost the locker room. Those guys didn't believe in him, and that means he can't be there. So if that has happened, Kyle Shanahan unequivocally has to go. But barring anything other than that, I think he's earned one more year. I do.
That's very reasonable. And I accept that you feel that way. I think you might be right. You might be 100% right. Maybe I'm being hasty. Here's why I feel the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I'll start here. I think he's having by far the worst season of his career in any stop.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't fully understand what the issue is. Like, there's some injuries. Every team has injuries. You didn't lose your quarterback. Maybe you have. Maybe he's not going to play the rest of the way, but you haven't lost your quarterback. Your running back went down and 2 good ones popped up. Your number 1 wide receiver went down and an even better one popped up, arguably. I don't buy the injury excuse. I don't buy the rest excuse. Yeah, there's a Super Bowl hangover, but like, I don't know. I mean, the Eagles did go through something similar to this like last year and they bounced back. So maybe the Niners will bounce back next year, but it feels like a really bad year with no explanation. My question is, will he bounce back, or are his best days behind him? And even when his best days were there, like, he still was statistically bad in 1-score games. Like, this is sort of his thing now. It's been 8 years and he's had a lot of 1-score games. And of all the head coaches in NFL history that have been in more than 40, he ranks 118 out of 125 with a win percentage of 39. So more than 60% of the time he's in a 1-score game, he's going to find a way to lose it. That's a problem. And that's the reason why guys who are in year 8, 9, 10 of being a coach rarely keep the job, because you know them. You know who they are at that point. And he's either a champion or he's not. And I think with Kyle, like, the reason he's not a champion isn't because of his system, and it's not because of his talent. It's because of his game management. And frankly, like, he looks like a guy who this job might just be too much for him because he's good at it. And then he gets to the finish line and he beats himself. Patrick Mahomes didn't beat him in 2 Super Bowls. He beat himself in 2 Super Bowls. Tom Brady didn't beat him. He beat himself. And it's like, he puts so much pressure on himself. It's not just the pressure of winning a Super Bowl, but living up to the legacy of his dad. And he's got to win 3. And it's like, whew, he might need a fresh start, a year off, a little perspective somewhere else, just like a lot of coaches have. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm being hasty and emotional, but that's why I feel like I don't know that he's going to turn it around. And he could get another year, another chance next year, just to be sure, just to give him the benefit of the doubt off all the good stuff he's done in the past. I'm not sure it'll get any better, because again, what's going to be different next year?
Yeah, listen, I think that's a fair argument. I'm not advocating for him to stay because I think it's going to necessarily get better. It might crash and burn. It really might.
But you're right, though. They could go and get Ben Johnson. He could suck. He could be not a leader of men. I mean, maybe Dan Campbell is the one providing all of that, and he's just a brain. I have no idea. I mean, there's a risk.
I've been talking about Ben Johnson this is now going on year 3. Okay. So I love Ben Johnson, or the thought of Ben Johnson. And from a play calling perspective, but let's also not forget that this is how we thought of Kyle Shanahan.
Correct. Oh, I love his system.
This way.
I love his system. I love his offense. Okay, but what kind of a leader is he? And we're discounting that with Harbaugh and Campbell and even Sirianni, who's annoying. Like, he's successful in his annoyingness.
And he's already put himself on a pedestal where he's like, "Oh, I'm not taking this job, or I'm not taking that job." And you're hearing whispers like, "I'm not going to Chicago." It's like, okay, dude, come on. You're great, but do you want to be a head coach or do you not?
True.
At some point,
and if you don't, why?
Passing up jobs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just there is no guarantee, and I think that
because I was saying, like, the problem with Kyle is you know him, but what you're saying is like the thing in Kyle's favor, you know him.
Yeah.
You know him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that, and by the way, no means am I saying, oh, listen, if they just make the playoffs next year, then we're good to go. No. To me, especially if you don't make the playoffs this year, you have to make it past the divisional round next year. And if you make it to the playoffs next year and you don't make it to at least the NFC Championship, then it's over, man. It's time to move on for you and us.
If they miss the playoffs before they fire him, like, I mean, if you were Jed York, would you bring Kyle into your office and be like, "Look, dude, can you explain to me what happened this year and why I shouldn't fire you? Just explain to me why I shouldn't fire you. This isn't going to happen again next year, and it was a blip. Like, I need to know why, because I can't figure it out on my own. You got to lead me to water on that one."
I feel like Kyle's his weakness, and he'll end up leaving the office with an extension or something. I don't know. I can't quit you, Kyle. Here's an extension. You earned it. You're right.
How does he do these? He had Jedi mind tricks on me. Probably right.